The only good consequence of Mr. Wickham having business in town is that the poor gentleman is spared the sight of Mr. Darcy.
It is difficult, indeed distressing, to think that Mr. Darcy would have treated Mr. Wickham so disgracefully. His most intimate friends be so deceived.
And there was truth in Mr. Wickham's looks.
You see in Mr. Wickham the same amiable nature I find in Mr. Bingley.
Miss Bennet, Miss Elizabeth Bennet, we are very glad that you have come. Will you join me, Miss Bennet, in the first of several dances? Miss Elizabeth, might I take this opportunity to solicit
Mr.
your...
Rollins, before you can continue, I cannot help but feel uneasy that you risk reproach from your patroness, should you to join in the evening's dancing.
I am secure in the belief that Lady Catherine de Bourgh would judge a gathering given by a young man of character who have little in the way of evil tendency. And I am so secure in this belief
Miss
that...
Bennet,
Mr. Darcy.
I trust you have been well.
Quite well, Mr. Darcy.
Might I have this dance?
Oh, yes, of course. It's a pleasant dance. Is that your observation, Mr. Darcy?
Yes, very pleasant.
It's your turn to say something now, Mr. Darcy. I remarked upon the dance. Now you ought to make some sort of comment on the size of the room or the number of couples.
You have rules then for conversation while dancing?
Only that you would look odd to be entirely silent for half an hour together. To the advantage of some, conversation ought to be arranged so they might have the comfort of saying as little as possible.
Are you voicing your own opinions on the matter, or do you imagine that you are gratifying mine?
Both, for I've both seen the great similarity in the turn of our minds. We are each of an unsocial, taciturn disposition, unwilling to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze the whole room, and be handed down to posterity with all the brilliance of a proverb.
This is not a picture of your own character, I am sure. How closely it resembles mine, I cannot pretend to say. You think a faithful portrait, undoubtedly.
I must not decide on my own performance.
Such wonderful dancing is not often seen. I must have this pleasure often repeated, especially when a certain event concerning a dear friend and a dear sister comes to take place. What congratulations will that flow in?
You and your sisters often walk to the village.
Yes, very often. When you saw Sir the other day, we had just been making a new acquaintance.
Ah, yes, Wickham is blessed with such happy manners as to ensure his mating friends. Whether or not he is equally capable of retaining them is less certain.
He has been so unlucky as to lose your friendship, and in a manner which he is likely to suffer from all his life. I remember hearing you once say, Mr. Darcy, that your resentment once created was unappeasable. You're very careful, I suppose, as to the resentments you hold dear.
I hope I am.
And you never allow yourself to be blinded by prejudice.
Might I ask to what these questions tend?
Merely to the illustration of your character. I'm trying to make it out.
And what is your success?
I do not get on at all.
Mr. Darcy, I have gathered intelligence that you are a near relation to my eminent patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who herself has ensconced me as the spiritual advisor at Hunsford Parsonage. I am the Reverend William Collins, and am delighted to know that our mutual connection to that day Fine, gentlemen. I have every reason to be satisfied with my reception.
So, Miss Eliza, I hear you were quite delighted with Mr. George Wickham. I take him on my slight acquaintance to be an agreeable gentleman. Let me recommend to you as a friend. Nothing in implicit confidence to all his assertions. As for Mr. Darcy's using him ill, it is perfectly false. On the contrary, it is Mr. George Wickham who has used Mr. Darcy in the most infamous manner. I do not know the particulars, but I do know that Mr. Darcy is not in the least to blame. I have no doubt of your sincerity, Miss Bingley, but prefer to make my own judgments in the matter. I beg your pardon. It was kindly meant.
You have delighted us long enough, child. Let the other young ladies have time to exhibit.
Oh yes, the match has many advantages, his being such a charming young man and so well off, that he is marrying Jane with all my other girls in the way of other wealthy men.